Trump and Romney, his former foe, had dinner together last night in one of the swankiest restaurants in New York. Trump and the former Republican nominee who lost the 2012 election to Barack Obama were joined by Trump's incoming chief of staff, Reince Priebus. Here's what Romney had to say after the meal.
I've had a wonderful evening with President-elect Trump. We had another discussion about affairs throughout the world, and these discussions I've had with him have been enlightening and interesting and engaging. I've enjoyed them very, very much. All of those things combined give me increasing hope that President-elect Trump is the very man who can lead us to that better future.
That's Mitt Romney there speaking. I've got Doug Herbert on the set to take a closer look at Trump and his latest picks or picks to be. Doug, I think for anyone who knows anything about Washington politics, seeing Mitt Romney, they're gushing almost over Donald Trump is really quite astonishing.
Yeah, even for people who are cynical about politics and say, well, they say one thing during the campaign and then they change their tone entirely afterwards, this still raises the bar of disbelief in a way. Let's remember, I'm going to quote Mitt Romney back in March in a campaign speech. He said, Donald Trump tells us that he's very, very smart. I'm afraid that when it comes to foreign policy, he is very, very not smart. He called him a phony. He called him a fraud, a con man. Donald Trump returned the favor, calling Mitt Romney a choker who walks like a penguin. These people, to say the least, these two did not seem to have any love lost for each other. And now here they are sitting at, like you said, New York's swankiest French restaurant, a swanky restaurant, having frog's legs, steak, and scallops and lamb chops, and then chocolate cake for dessert. And then this gushing praise. What is going on here? Donald Trump is doing what Donald Trump has proven to be very adept at, which is leaving everyone in suspense, keeping us all guessing as to what his true motives are, not letting anyone sort of try to read his mind as to what he's going to do next. You know, we've heard all the stories about the rotating cast of characters vying for this Secretary of State job, most prominent among them the former New York Mayor Rudolph Giuliani, who has openly campaigned for this job. He wants it so badly, and Donald Trump knows that. And so there's one school of thought that Donald Trump has actually been turned off by the fact that Rudy Giuliani has wanted it so badly. There are also other complications with Giuliani, with his business ties and stuff like that. So what happens with Romney here and Trump? The fact is, you could ask the question, do opposites ultimately attract? Romney, it's known that Donald Trump is known to like his work ethic. Romney is a Mormon. Donald Trump said to admire the Mormon work ethic. They both are said to have an aversion to alcohol. Neither one drinks. I'll note that George W. Bush didn't drink either. Neither does Vladimir Putin, for that matter. But Donald Trump doesn't drink. Mitt Romney doesn't drink. Perhaps they do see in each other qualities that the other one maybe doesn't have, and they both sort of complement each other in a really perverse, weird way. But if you were to guess right now, I'd say that Romney, ironically, even though some of Donald Trump's leading senior campaign advisors are really vehemently against him, including Kellyanne Conway, one of his senior advisors, and Steve Bannon, the guy who's tapped for chief strategist, even though they're really dead set against Romney as a pick, we know Donald Trump can take us by surprise. I wouldn't rule out Romney. He seems really up there now as a favorite, perhaps, to be tapped for Secretary of State. Right,
a favorite perhaps, but we still do not know who Donald Trump is going to choose at this hour for Secretary of State. We do, however, have more information about some other picks. Tell us about them.
We absolutely do. Look, Donald Trump has picked some controversial people, to say the least, right? We've talked about Steve Bannon, who's going to be his chief strategist. We've talked about Michael Flynn as his national security advisor, and bringing in these people. For the healthcare role, he's tapped into someone, Tom Price, who is basically someone who is his entire career has been, in the last few years, dead set against dismantling Obamacare. You remember after the election, Donald Trump, he had that meeting with Barack Obama at the White House. And one of the things that emerged afterwards, aside from Donald Trump's unexpectedly sort of effusive praise for Obama, saying he really respects him as a president and taking some lessons learned, he said he was going to keep some provisions of Obamacare, namely the provision for people with pre-existing medical conditions, children able to stay on their parents' medical care plans, health care plans till the age of 26. He said he might keep those. With this guy coming in, Tom Price, all bets might be off because he seems to be really dead set against almost all aspects of Obamacare, really conservative in many sense. Those those who are for some element of universal health coverage fear what sort of influence he might have on Donald Trump. And the other pick is, like you said, Donald Trump built a campaign railing against bankers and Wall Street influence. Well, this guy couldn't be closer to Wall Street. Stephen Mnuchin, who's basically a Hollywood producer. He's done movies like Mad Max, Fury Road, and all of that. But he's also worked in hedge funds, and he's a former Goldman Sachs guy, former Goldman Sachs executive. So it's very interesting that Donald Trump has gone straight to what he would have seen as sort of the original sin of the crime, on Wall Street, to tap into some talent there. And I might mention that Stephen Mnuchin, we have no idea what he thinks about policy or governance. He has no experience in those areas. He's simply a hedge fund manager who worked at Goldman Sachs. What he actually thinks and what he would do and how he would run the Treasury Department, that remains a big black hole of speculation.